In this problem here, we have to read the input that is connected to port 1 bit 3 and output to port 1 bit 0, bit 1 and bit 2 to control the motor as well as the LED. Using byte operation to read from the input and write to the output can be quite troublesome because we have to do masking. So it will be easier if we can define each of these bits individually and use bit control rather than byte control. To use bit operation, the following pins have been defined for you. The select pin is defined as port 1 bit 3, the LEDs port 1 bit 2, motor 1 port 1 bit 0 and motor 2 port 1 bit 1. And the following function, blink LED initialization, has been given to you. In this function here, the LED is turned on initially and a delay of 200 milliseconds is set. The sequence init function has also been given to you. In this function, both motor M1 and M2 will be off initially. In this question here, we have to write a function which will return a 1 if the select button is pressed. That is, if there's a high to low transition. The function must not wait for the transition. The push button switch has a bounce time of up to 10 milliseconds. So the first thing to do is to declare an old switch value to remember what was our previous switch value. So this bit switch value old has been declared and initialized to 0 for you. Now in this function bit select press, the first thing that we need to do would be to declare a bit value called select val and use this bit variable to read our switch value. We cannot use while because we do not want to get stuck, so we'll use the if value and we'll compare the switch value old and the switch value new. If the two values are not the same, it means that there's a transition, either low to high or high to low. So if there's a change, we will need to update the old value. And we have to do a debouncing by waiting for 10 milliseconds. If the switch value new is equal to 0, it means that previously it was high, now it's low. This means it's a high to low transition. So we have to return a 1. Otherwise, it could be there's no transition or it's a low to high transition. In that case, we have to return a 0. Our next task would be to write a function to toggle the LED when the delay has expired. If the LED is on, we will delay for 200 milliseconds to let it on for 200 milliseconds. Otherwise, if it's off, we will delay for 1800 milliseconds so that it stay off for 1008 milliseconds. Right, so void blink LED void. The first thing to do is to check whether the timer has expired. So if timer 2 delay expired, then we will have to toggle the LED. And if the LED is in the state of 1, it means that it's on. So we have to set a delay of 200 milliseconds. Otherwise, we have to set a timer delay of 1800 millisecond. Our next task is to write a function called sequence such that when the select button is pressed, it will turn on or off the motor appropriately as described previously. You can read back the values of the motor M1 and M2 to determine if the motor are currently on or off. So for this function sequence, the first thing to do is to check whether there is a switch press. We'll use our earlier function. So we'll use if select press. If select press is high, it means that there's a high to low transition detected. So the first thing that we have to do is to check the state of the motor. If the state of the motor is such that M1 is off and M2 is also off, then we have to turn on M1. Else, if M1 is on and M2 is off, then we have to turn on M2 and turn off M1. Else, if M1 is off and M2 is on, then we have to turn off M2. That will finish our task. Lastly, we have to write the main function to implement the complete system using the functions that were provided as well as functions that were implemented previously. So void main void, the first thing to do would be to initialize the timer to cause an interrupt every 1 millisecond perhaps, and then call for the earlier function blink LED init and call for the sequence init. Once the initialization is done, we can do the while one task. Call for the blink LED and call for the sequence. That's it.